Ladies and gentlemen, certainly, here is an intro for your motivational speech in the style of Shi Heng Yi, calm, profound, and meditative, yet direct and awakening in tone. For the topic God's Final Warning, Shi Heng Yi reveals why you must stay inside on June 30. In this life, there are signs, and there are whispers. At first they are gentle, a moment of stillness, a sudden silence in the middle of the storm. But when the heart remains asleep, when the soul forgets its divine assignment, those whispers become thunder. Many people wait for warnings from the outside, but a true warning comes not from the sky or the sea. It comes from the alignment or misalignment of your inner world with the greater cosmic law. Now we are approaching a time, a specific moment, June 30, not a date to be feared, but to be understood, to be respected. This is not about superstition. This is about awareness. Why are you being called to be still? Why are you being told to stay inside, not only physically, but inwardly, to turn your gaze from the noise of the world back into your own center? Because when divine order prepares to move, it always gives a final call to the chosen. Not to escape, but to awaken, not to panic, but to align. This is God's final warning, not shouted, but whispered deeply into the hearts of those who dare to listen. And today I invite you to listen. The universe does not scream. It whispers first, before any great shift, before any major event that alters the course of our personal life or collective destiny. There is always a soft murmur, a subtle vibration that precedes the storm. Those who are sensitive, those who are aligned, those who are quiet enough within themselves, they hear it. But most people miss it, not because it isn't there, but because their inner world is too loud to receive anything subtle. A whisper from the universe can come in many forms: a sudden sense of discomfort in a familiar place, a dream that lingers longer than usual, an encounter with someone who says something seemingly small, but it echoes in your spirit. Or perhaps it's an intuition, a knowing that something is about to change. The energy shifts first before reality rearranges, and when it shifts, the ones who have trained their awareness are already adjusting before others even notice the winds have changed direction. Why does the universe choose to whisper instead of scream? Because the scream is a last resort. The scream is what happens when you ignore the whisper long enough. The whisper is an invitation, an act of mercy, a sacred warning to those who are attuned. It is not meant to be forceful. It is meant to guide gently, to preserve your free will, to honor your awareness. But if that awareness is absent, if it is dulled by constant stimulation, by noise, by distraction, the whisper will go unheard, and consequences will arrive not because they were not warned, but because they were not listening. There is a pattern in spiritual history that shows this again and again. Before the flood, there was a warning. Before the fire, a message. Before destruction, always an invitation to return, to align, to purify. The sacred texts of many cultures record these patterns not to create fear, but to create awareness. What is coming is not punishment. It is the natural consequence of collective misalignment. It is the result of humanity moving so far from harmony with divine law that a reset becomes inevitable. But even in this, there is grace. The final warning always comes not as a threat, but as an opportunity. This is why understanding the whispers is so important. They are not loud. They are not broadcasted through media. They are not trending topics. They appear in the quiet spaces, in still moments of reflection, in the sudden urgency to withdraw, to seek solitude, to fast, to pray, to detach from the noise. Most people interpret these feelings as confusion or anxiety, but for the spiritually awakened, these are signals, a divine alert system built into the soul. To hear the whisper, one must first create space for silence. The inner noise must be reduced, the mind must be disciplined. This is why many spiritual disciplines, whether martial, monastic, or meditative, begin not with action but with awareness. Awareness leads to stillness. Stillness opens the door to hearing, and once you can hear what others cannot, You are no longer reacting to life. You are responding to divine timing. When the whisper comes, the ego will try to dismiss it. It will say, "You're overthinking," or "There's no proof." But truth does not always come with proof. Truth comes with presence, and if your spirit recognizes it, even before your mind can explain it, you must respect that recognition. This is how the divine communicates, with precision, but not with volume. Only those who are humble enough to listen without needing certainty will hear the instructions before the chaos unfolds. June 30 is not just another date on the calendar. For those who are awake, who observe the rhythm of the universe and the unseen currents that guide our reality, this day marks a point of divine alignment. In the ancient traditions, time was never linear. It was cyclical and sacred. Certain moments carry weight not because of external events, but because of what is happening in the energetic and spiritual realms. June 30 holds such weight. It is not a coincidence. It is an appointed time, chosen by forces beyond human understanding to signal a shift. When the divine orchestrates a moment of alignment, it is never random. The positioning of time, energy, and spirit all converge to offer an opportunity, a warning, or a revelation. Some will experience June 30 as a quiet day, but for others, those attuned to inner frequencies, it will be a threshold, a moment of pause between what was and what is to come. The stillness may seem strange, the silence may feel unnatural, but that is precisely why it is sacred. It is a sign that something beneath the surface is preparing to emerge. In many teachings, sacred dates are not meant to be understood by the intellect alone. They are to be felt in the soul. They are invitations for the inner being to align with the universal will. On June 30, staying inside is not simply about physical shelter. It is symbolic of returning inward, of turning the gaze away from the distractions of the external world and back toward the inner sanctuary where divine guidance speaks most clearly. This is not about hiding from something fearful. It is about entering into a space of reverence, listening, and protection. Energy peaks at certain moments, and when that happens, the veil between the visible and invisible becomes thinner. During these times, revelations become accessible. Truths that were hidden suddenly rise to the surface, but only those who are still, who are prepared, who are spiritually open, will be able to receive them. June 30 is such a moment, a gate that opens only for those who are watching. It is not about fear, it is about timing, divine timing that transcends human plans and expectations. People often ask, how can a date matter so much? The truth is that in spiritual reality, time is not measured by clocks or calendars. It is measured by alignment, alignment of your thoughts, your actions, your energy with the higher will. When the universe declares a moment sacred, it is because the energy on that day is uniquely suited to support spiritual awakening or protection. June 30 carries such a vibration. Whether or not the world recognizes it, the energy will still move. The wave will still pass through. The wise prepare not because they fear the wave, but because they know how to ride it. There is a growing sense of urgency in the spiritual world, not rooted in panic, but in precision. Those who are watching understand that certain windows open only once, and to miss them is to delay what was meant for your elevation. June 30 is a window, a chance to reflect, to fast, to listen, not to the world, but to the divine whisper within. You must be where God instructs you to be, and if He says stay inside, then that is where you will find His presence, His protection, and His plan unfolding. To treat such a moment lightly is to overlook the intelligence of divine order. Nothing in the universe happens without reason. The sun does not rise late. The stars do not drift without meaning. Every movement is exact. Every moment has a purpose. And when a date like June 30 arises with such spiritual weight, those who are wise will not question. They will observe, they will prepare, and they will align. Stillness is not merely the absence of movement, it is the presence of intention. It is not weakness or avoidance. In fact, in the spiritual dimension, stillness is the greatest form of strength. To be still when the world is in chaos is to stand firm when everything around you is shaking. When divine instructions say to stay inside, it is not simply about staying in a room or house. It is a symbolic command to retreat into the sanctuary of the spirit. In moments of divine warning, stillness becomes your protection because it allows you to come into alignment with higher instruction without the interference of noise, distraction, or confusion. When a storm is forming, it is not wise to be in motion. Movement invites exposure. Stillness, on the other hand, allows clarity. It offers the soul a chance to feel what is unseen, to listen to what is normally drowned out by the distractions of daily life. In moments of sacred warning, what is needed is not frantic action but calm alignment. Many people equate activity with power, but divine wisdom often operates in reverse. It is in the act of stillness that real movement happens internally. It is where the heart softens, where awareness sharpens, and where truth is most clearly heard. In spiritual warfare, the strongest warriors are not always those who run into the battle, but those who know when to pause, when to observe, and when to wait. The instruction to stay inside is not out of fear, but out of discernment. When God calls you to be still, it is because something is unfolding in the spiritual realm that you cannot yet see with your physical eyes. Stillness keeps you covered. Stillness removes you from harm's path not because it is weak, but because it honors the timing of the divine. Silence is a forgotten discipline. People are addicted to noise because noise masks the discomfort of confronting the self. But on a day like June 30, noise will only confuse the message. The clarity of divine communication is found in quiet places. This is why prophets went into the wilderness. This is why monks enter into long periods of silence. This is why the greatest revelations are often preceded by solitude, because in stillness you don't just avoid distraction. You hear the instructions that were always there but hidden beneath layers of mental chaos. To stay inside is to be sealed in a space where the world cannot touch your frequency. It is a decision to disconnect from the material noise and return to the purity of being. It is an act of obedience and protection. When you are still, you become sensitive to movements beyond the physical. You begin to perceive the subtle signals of a realm that governs the visible one, and in doing so, you become prepared, not in panic, but in posture. You position yourself to receive what others are not even aware is being given. There is power in not reacting. The world teaches us to respond immediately, to fight back, to voice every thought. But divine wisdom often instructs the opposite. Be still, be quiet, go within. The voice of God is not found in the fire, the earthquake, or the wind, but in the still small voice. That voice only speaks when you have created enough space to hear it. And once you hear it, you are no longer exposed. You are guided, covered, and anchored. The protection is not in the place. The protection is in the posture. Stillness becomes a fortress that chaos cannot penetrate. The noise of the world will tell you that stillness is laziness or weakness, but those who have walked the inner path know better. They know that in moments of spiritual intensity, the greatest power is to be unmoved, unshaken, and deeply rooted. Stillness sharpens perception. It opens the door to divine communication. And on a day of great spiritual weight, like June 30, stillness is not optional. It is sacred instruction. The chosen ones are not identified by appearance, by social status, or by loud declarations of faith. They are recognized by their sensitivity to divine timing. They move not according to the pressures of the world, but by the rhythm of the unseen. They feel shifts in the atmosphere before the news reports them. They adjust their internal compass based not on what is trending, but on what is eternal. To recognize divine timing is not a talent, it is the result of deep spiritual discipline and alignment. The chosen ones do not chase after every voice, they wait to hear the one voice that matters. In every generation, there are those who walk in tune with something higher. When others are rushing outward, they are moving inward. When others are seeking attention, they are seeking clarity. It is not that they are better, it is that they are attuned. They have been through seasons of silence, through deserts of the soul, through storms of isolation, and in those places they have learned how to read signs others overlook. They no longer require validation from the crowd because their sense of direction comes from a deeper source. The world moves on trends. It is obsessed with what is visible, popular, loud, and immediate. But divine timing is quiet, deep, and exact. The chosen ones have trained themselves to sense it. They feel the warning before it becomes a crisis. They feel the call to stillness before others feel the need to react. They feel the need to withdraw not because they fear what is coming, but because they are being summoned by something sacred. They move with reverence, not with fear. They move because the whisper of God is louder to them than the noise of the world. Recognizing timing means understanding that not all moments are created equal. Some days pass without spiritual significance. Others are gates, appointed windows, sacred thresholds. On such days, the chosen do not treat them casually. They prepare, they realign, they pray, they listen. June 30 is one such day. It is not just a date, it is a signal. And those who are tuned into divine timing have already sensed its weight. They have already begun to shift their focus inward. They know that when God marks a day, it is not for entertainment, but for elevation or protection. The chosen ones may look ordinary. They go to work, take care of their families, fulfill their duties, but beneath the surface, their spirit is alert, their ears are open, their heart is aligned. When the divine speaks, they don't ask for confirmation from others, they obey. When the instruction is to stay inside, they don't need external proof. They recognize the voice, they trust the source, they understand that timing is more important than comfort, that being in the right place at the right moment is more powerful than being everywhere at once. They do not announce their movements, they are not trying to convince anyone. They move quietly, intentionally, often misunderstood by those around them, but the result of their obedience is always revealed in time. While others are caught unaware, they are preserved. While others are confused, they are clear. While others are shaken, they are anchored, because they did not wait for the world to tell them when to move. They listened to the whisper within. To recognize divine timing is to live beyond the surface. It is to see the patterns that lie beneath events. It is to know that not every opportunity is for you, and not every warning is for everyone. But when it is for you, your spirit will know. The chosen ones are not perfect. They have struggles, doubts, and fears, but they have cultivated one thing above all, the ability to pause and listen when heaven is speaking, and that ability is what positions them not just to survive what comes, but to rise through it. Inner preparation is not something visible to the world. It happens in silence, in solitude, in moments when no one is watching. It is the unseen labor of the soul, the invisible alignment that takes place between the spirit and the divine. Most people spend their energy on preparing the external, stocking up, organizing, planning, but neglect the one preparation that truly matters. When the divine sends a signal, it is not your outer world that will carry you through, it is the state of your inner world. Inner preparation means clearing the mind, purifying the heart, and becoming deeply centered in truth. This kind of preparation is subtle but powerful. It cannot be faked. You can fool others by looking composed, but you cannot deceive your own soul. When the atmosphere shifts, when divine timing arrives, your outer actions will not be enough if your inner foundation is shaky. Inner preparation is about building that foundation before the moment comes. It is about deepening your stillness, anchoring your awareness, and strengthening your spiritual discernment. It is about preparing yourself to hear, to feel, and to move in alignment with divine instruction. The world teaches you to react. It rewards speed and visibility, but the spiritual path is different. It teaches response from a place of rooted calm. It asks you to slow down, to become still, to observe with clarity. Inner preparation is the discipline of removing noise and unnecessary movement so that your energy becomes sharp, focused, and responsive to what matters. In moments of divine warning, this is what protects you, not frantic action, but steady alignment. You do not need to know everything. You only need to be positioned to receive what is meant for you. To prepare inwardly is to confront the areas of resistance within you, the fear, the doubt, the attachment to comfort or control. These are the very things that block divine flow. Inner preparation is about surrendering those blocks, one layer at a time, until what remains is a clean vessel ready to receive direction. When God gives instruction, it rarely comes through chaos. It comes through calm. If your inner space is filled with confusion, you will miss the whisper. You will hear only the echoes of your own fear. But if your inner space is still, then even the softest whisper becomes loud enough to guide you. The moments leading to divine appointments are not meant to be filled with panic. They are opportunities for purification. If June 30 holds a weight of sacred timing, then the days before it are the time to cleanse, to reflect, to detach from what is no longer needed. Fasting, prayer, solitude, these are not rituals of religion alone, but tools of inner preparation. They sharpen your senses, they open your spiritual eyes, they allow you to sense the presence of what is coming before it arrives. And in doing so, you enter the day not with anxiety, but with readiness. There is a hidden wisdom in preparing inwardly while the world remains unaware. It positions you ahead of the moment. It makes you receptive. It gives you clarity that cannot be shaken by the opinions of others. While others rush to figure out what is happening, you are already aligned. Inner preparation removes the need to understand everything because it replaces doubt with trust. Trust in timing, trust in guidance, trust in the process of spiritual unfolding. When the divine moves, those who are inwardly prepared recognize it immediately. They do not delay, they do not second guess. They move with grace because they are ready. Readiness is not about having everything figured out. It is about being positioned in spirit. That positioning comes only through preparation, and preparation requires consistency. Daily stillness, reflection, refinement. These are not optional practices. They are your armor. They are your clarity. They are what allow you to enter sacred moments fully aware and completely aligned. God's warning is never meant to incite panic, but to initiate return. It is not the expression of anger, but of mercy. Divine warnings are sent not to destroy, but to realign, to bring creation back into harmony with divine law. When a warning comes, it is not merely a message about what might happen in the physical world, but a signal that something has gone off balance in the spiritual order. When God speaks through a warning, it is always layered. It calls the individual to reflect, the community to wake up, and the soul to come back into obedience. The world has a habit of interpreting divine messages through the lens of fear. But fear distorts. A warning from God is not rooted in fear. It is rooted in love. It is a reminder that divine order exists, and when it is violated for too long, correction must come. That correction is not punishment, but restoration. And before it arrives, God always gives space for preparation. Warnings are those spaces. They are grace extended, a chance to pause, to repent, to realign, to soften the heart and correct the course. Divine order is not something imposed. It is something that already exists. It is the original blueprint. When humanity deviates from it, individually or collectively, there is a spiritual tension that builds. This tension does not go unnoticed in the unseen realm. The laws that govern spiritual reality begin to stir. nature responds, the atmosphere begins to change, and the divine sends out its signals, not through noise, but through shifts in energy, through uncommon dreams, through prophets, through sudden calls to solitude or reflection. These are not coincidences. These are the signs of a coming realignment. To return to divine order is not about rituals or appearances. It is about heart posture. It is about sincerity. It is about recognizing the ways in which we have drifted and making the quiet decision to come back. Warnings are a chance to come back before being pulled back. One is graceful, the other can be painful. God always offers the former first. The warning is the first invitation. It is extended not to everyone equally, but to those whose hearts are still tender enough to feel it. On days like June 30, when there is a spiritual alert in the atmosphere, the warning may not come through words at all. It may come through a sudden heaviness in the soul, a call to fast, a sense that something is shifting. These are not to be ignored. These are the whispers of divine alignment calling the soul to return home. They are quiet, but their impact is great. They do not come with fanfare or visible signs, but to the ones who are watching, they are louder than thunder. To take heed of a divine warning is not weakness, it is wisdom. It means the soul has remained sensitive. It means the distractions of the world have not numbed you completely, and it means you are still capable of responding with humility. That response is the first act of return, to be still, to turn inward, to examine the places within where divine law has been replaced by ego, by greed, by pride, to confess, to release, to ask for realignment. These are sacred acts. They do not take place in public. They happen in the unseen, but their effects ripple through both the inner world and the outer world. When the divine sends a warning, the question is not what is going to happen. The real question is, am I in alignment? Because when you are aligned, you are not afraid, you are not shaken, you are positioned. The return to divine order brings peace even in the midst of chaos. It brings clarity when the world is confused. It brings safety not from external threats alone, but from the internal storms that come when a soul is disconnected from its source. This is what the warning calls us toward, not fear, but realignment. Not panic, but preparation, not reaction, but remembrance. To stay inside is not only an act of physical caution, it is a sacred metaphor that reaches into the depths of the soul. It represents the call to return to the inner temple, the untouched space within where divine truth is not just understood but felt. The instruction to stay inside is far more than advice for external safety. It is a spiritual command to retreat from the noise, the illusions, the chaos of the outside world, and re-enter the sanctuary of awareness, presence, and stillness that resides within every human being. The outer world is full of distraction. It constantly pulls attention away from the essential and into the temporary. It glorifies reaction, performance, and stimulation, but the inner world is the seat of truth. It is where clarity is born. It is where intuition sharpens and divine instructions are received. When the world begins to shake, the strongest place to be is not out in the storm, but inside the sacred space of self, mastery, and divine communion. This is what it means to stay inside, not just behind walls and doors, but behind the veil, into the deeper chambers of the spirit. The ancient traditions have always known this truth. Temples, monasteries, caves, mountaintops, all were used not because of their physical qualities, but because they represented separation from the noise of the world. When a soul is about to receive something sacred, it must first be separated. It must be still. It must be alone with the divine. On days of spiritual weight, like June 30, this principle becomes even more vital. The instruction to stay inside is not superstition. It is preparation for an encounter. It is readiness to receive what is too delicate to be spoken in the open. Inside is where purification happens. It is where reflection is honest, where intentions are refined, where alignment is restored. To stay inside is to leave behind the performance of the outer life and return to the truth of the inner life. It is not about hiding, it is about remembering who you are beyond the roles, beyond the opinions, beyond the endless stream of information. Inside is where the soul rests. It is where the voice of God is not muffled. It is where divine downloads come in full clarity because nothing is competing for your attention. To stay inside is also to disconnect from collective panic. When the world enters fear, the energy of that fear becomes contagious. People absorb it without knowing. They carry it into their homes, into their relationships, into their decisions. But when you stay inside, not only physically but energetically, you protect yourself from that current. You remain grounded, you remain aware, you move by spiritual instruction, not emotional reaction, and that positioning becomes your shield, it becomes your clarity, it becomes your advantage when others are confused. The inner temple is not reserved for monks or mystics. It exists in everyone, but few enter it because it requires silence, humility, and surrender. The door is always open, but only those who are willing to leave the noise outside can cross the threshold. On sacred days, when warnings are given and energy shifts occur, the instruction to stay inside is an invitation to that threshold. It is a chance to sit in the presence of what is real, while the illusions of the world begin to shake and fall apart. There is a reason why transformation often happens in solitude. There is a reason why the greatest revelations are born in hidden places. The soul must first be emptied before it can be filled. It must be silent before it can hear. Staying inside creates that space. It strips away what is false and makes room for what is eternal. And in that quiet space, something sacred happens. The soul is not only protected, it is prepared, not just from external danger, but for divine elevation. For the fulfillment of something that cannot be accessed in noise or chaos, only in stillness and alignment.